Hello class, today we're looking at notes for Algebra 1, Section 710, Rewriting Quadratic Equations in Factored Form, Part 4. So we're looking at quadratic equations that are a little bit different today. The first one we're looking at, it says, what is the factored form of 6x squared plus 11x minus 35? So hopefully the part that you're noticing that is different is now our leading term, our x squared, our quadratic term, has a number in front of it. It has a coefficient other than 1. So now we have a 6x squared. This is going to really change the way we factor. These are not going to be easy today. It's going to take some grit and perseverance. So we know that it could be 3x plus something times 2x plus something, right? And the reason that we know that is that 3x times 2x would give us this 6x squared. Or it could be 6x plus something times x plus something. This would be another way to get 6x squared. But will the second number in each factor be negative 5 and 7, 5 and negative 7, 35 and negative 1, or negative 35 and 1? So today we have to do some guessing and checking before finding the equivalent expression that would allow us to solve. So we're going to do some guessing and checking. Our first guess, let's see, was the 3x plus something times 2x plus something. And let's see, it says negative 5 and 7 is an option, 5 and negative 7. So we're just going to go for it. So let's write a negative 5 and a positive 7 and see what happens. So the interesting part about this is I know my first term, my 6x squared, is going to match up. Again, 3x squared times 2x squared gives me a 6x squared. So the 6x squared is going to be good to go. I don't have to worry about that. I'm going to get rid of all these stray marks up here. So I know that the 6x squared is going to check out. If I look at multiplying my last two terms, negative 5 times 7, that's going to be a negative 35. That also works. So all I really need to check is those inside terms. And the inside terms would be the would be the first, or no, I guess that's outer, and the inner ones. Those are the only ones I need to check. I don't need to check the 3x times 2x. I don't need to check the negative 5 times 7. So I'm checking the outer terms, I'm checking the inner terms. So my inner terms, negative 5 times 2x makes a negative 2x. And my outer terms, 3x times 7, makes a 21x. And when I add those together, negative 10 plus 20, it does make 11x. So my answer actually checks. So this is going to be our solution here. And I really did not mean to make a correct guess on the first time. I wanted us to have to work a little bit, but sometimes that happens. Okay, so that means now I know how to factor. And then remember, after we have our equation in factored form, we're going to apply zero product property to say, well, if we're multiplying two things together and it equals 0, either 3x minus 5 equals 0 or 2x plus 7 equals 0. And then we're going to go through and solve. Make sure you're showing all the work when you're solving. It's really important to us in Algebra 1 that these solving skills become very fluid, and the way we get that fluency is by doing a lot of solving. And so we do want you to show the work. The next four, we're not actually solving, we're just factoring. And the reason I can tell is because they're not equal to anything. So that's good. So it's going to save us a little bit of time. And we might have to do some guessing and checking again. So let's go ahead and think about what multiplies to make a 2x squared. Well, that's only 2 times 1, so that's going to help a little bit. But for 6, we could have 6 times 1, we could have 2 times 3, and then remember, we can kind of reverse the order of those factors as well. So I could write 1 and 6, I could write 3 and 2. Maybe I won't put all of those down because that looks confusing. Then I want to think about signs. So I'm multiplying, and my last term is positive, but my middle term is negative. That means I need to have two minus signs. I either have negative 6 and negative 1, or negative 2 and negative 3. And that's because negative times negative makes a positive. And when we add two negatives, we get a negative. So in order to get the signs match, They have to both be negatives. So let's go ahead and set this up. So I'm going to write 2x in one and x in the other, and then I'm just going to try guessing. So let's go ahead and write minus 6 minus 1. And then again, we don't have to check our first. We don't have to check 2x times x. We don't have to check our last. We don't have to check negative 6 times negative 1. All we need to do is check our inner terms and our outer terms. So negative 6 times x is negative 6x. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2x. When I add those together, it makes a negative 8x. So that one's not going to work. So I'm going to now reverse the order. I'm going to put the 1 over here and the 6 over here, because that's going to be different, right? That's going to pair up the 6 with the 2. And so that's going to make a difference. So let's try it now. So now I want to check my inside terms. That's a negative 1x. And I'm going to check my outside terms. That's a negative 12x. When I add those together, it makes negative 13x. And so I know this is the answer. You start to get the hang of it. Right away when I saw 13, because I've done so many of those, I was thinking, wow, if I multiplied a 2 and a 6 somehow, that'd be really close to 13 already. But the way that we get better at this is unfortunately just by practicing, and it's pretty tough. 4 could be 4 times 1, it could be 2 times 2. And 3, let's see, negative 3, well, that could be a negative 3 and a positive 1, or a 3 and a negative 1. And remember, we can also reverse that order as well. So I'm not sure which to start out with. I might start with 2x and 2x. And then let's go ahead and say minus 3 plus 1. I know 1 needs to be negative, 1 positive. This makes a negative 6x and a 2x. I already know that's not going to work. So let's go ahead and erase these guys. Switch them around. So that means I'd want to put the 1 over here. I'm trying to do different colors for my guesses. And the 3 over here. But this is still a 2 and a 3. Or still 2. So that's not actually going to do anything, is it? I'm still going to be multiplying the 2 times 3, the 1 times the 2. Not anything new. All right. So let's try 4x and 1x, which is just x by itself. And then let's think about what we might want to multiply the 3 by. So I'm thinking about how if I multiply 4 times 3, that makes a 12. And then if I have a 1 that I could subtract from that, it would make 11. So let's put the 3 over here and the 1 over here. And the reason I'm doing that again is because then I'm going to multiply the 4 times the 3 and the 1 times the x. Right? This makes a 1x. This makes a 12x. Now I've got to think about signs. I want the 12x to be positive, and I want the 1x to be negative. So let's go ahead and fill that in. That would give me an 11x. So hopefully this process makes a little bit of sense to you. You could always go back and rewatch that. But again, like as we work through these, we get a little bit better at guessing, and I'm trying to kind of model that. So number 3 I don't like because they're all negative. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor a negative out of everything. And that would make it a positive 3x squared, a positive 13x, and a positive 4. So now I can just look at factoring this part. And then I can just leave that negative sign kind of outside. So my final answer will be a negative and then 2 factors. That's how I'll be writing it. So that would be completely factored. So again, for the 3, we could have a 3 times 1. For the 4, we could have a 2 times 2 or a 4 times 1. So let's go ahead and try this. So I'm going to set this up with a 3x. Don't forget my minus sign in front. And my 1x, so x is by itself. And then I've got to decide, is it 2 and 2 or 4 and 1? So everything's positive, right? So let's write plus signs in both. I'm trying to switch the color, so this I know is going to be that way. And then the stuff I do in this kind of purpley color, I'm going to swap around. So let's make 2 and 2. And this is one where I can't really swap these 2's because it'll give me the same thing, right? So I only have to check this one time. So my inside terms is a 2x. My outside terms is a 6x. Those do not add and make 13, right? They make 8. So let's go ahead and erase this. So now I've decided that 2 and 2 does not work. So let's try 4 and 1. And then again, I've got to think, where do I want the 4? Where do I want the 1? Which one do I want to multiply by 3? So I could do 3x times the 1 and the 4 times the x. Let's see how that happens. That's going to be a 4x and a 3x. When we add, it makes 7x. That's not going to work. So hopefully you're watching this video and you were thinking like, no, don't put the 4 over there. It's so obvious. Like hopefully we're getting to that point. So I really want to multiply 3 times 4. That would give me a 12. So this would make a 12x here. And that means the 1 would be here, which makes a 1x. 1x and 12x gives me a 13x for my middle term. So here's my answer for this one. The last one, they're all even. And this is just something, again, check for common factors, but the more of them that you do, the more obvious it will be. And I can see I've got 12, 4, and 6, they're all even. So my first step, like on the last one, I divided a negative from everything. We call that factoring out a negative. This one I'm going to factor out a 2. So it's like dividing it out from all of them. And then we'd have 6x squared minus 2x plus 3. And this makes it a much simpler problem. We have smaller numbers, we have less factors. So this is going to be another 1 negative, 1 positive. We could have a negative 3 and a positive 1, or a 3 and a negative 1, and we could reverse the order. For the 6, we could have a 3 times 2, or a 6 times 1. So let's go ahead and start doing some guessing. So I'm going to do a 2 here. I feel like the 6 and 1 is less likely to be true, because if I think about multiplying 6 times 3, that's 18. And that's a really big number. It's hard to think about how I could get a middle term of negative 2 if I have an 18. And if I do 6 times 1, 6 minus a 3 it's not going to work either. So I'm going to go ahead and cross this out, and I'm just going to guess 3x and 2x. And then I've got to figure out how my 3 and my 1 go. So I'm just going to write, let's see, let's just guess a minus 3 and a plus 1 and see what happens. Well, this is going to make a negative 6x and a plus 3x. That makes a middle term of negative 3x. So not going to work. So let's go ahead and switch our 1 and our 3 around. I'm kind of wondering, like, is this going to work? I'm a little bit nervous about this. Let's do a 1 here then, and a 3 here. I don't think that's going to work either, is it? So now we've got a minus 2x and a plus 3, or plus 9x. That makes a 7x. All right, so something funky is going on here. So let me go back and make sure that I did the math right on my earlier guess when I had the 3 and the 2, because sometimes we do silly things. So let's put the 3 again here, and then, oh, that was a 1 again here. So that's really not going to work. Did I factor correctly in the beginning? I did. I've got the 12x squared. And I really didn't think the 1 would work either. So I'm wondering if we have inadvertently picked something that is not factorable, or if I'm making a silly mistake this morning. So I'm going to grab a piece of paper really fast while I'm on here, and I'm kind of double checking my work to making sure I didn't do anything dumb. And I did not. So it looks like this one is not factorable. So the good news is I'm not crazy. The bad news is all I can do is factor out a 2 here. So there's a reason that this did not work out. So if we get one like this on a homework assignment, we'll definitely kind of give you a heads up. that you're coming across something like this. I think this is kind of cruel and unusual today while we're doing all this guessing and checking, but I think it's good to point out that not everything is factorable. So if we're trying to solve something, pretend this was equal to 0, we need to have a better way, right? So we need to be able to come up with a way to solve quadratics. So, as always, if you need help, please make sure you ask. I think that guessing and checking today can sometimes be very uncomfortable. There are other ways of doing this that are not guessing and checking, and we've found that students have a hard time remembering them from one year to the next. So they really, really help while you're doing it, but you just can't remember it. And the guessing and checking seems to be the one that people remember. But if you really think that you can't do this, you're welcome to do some research on your own. Some other methods that work are slide and divide. I'm writing them down so you could research. There's one called master product. There's factor by grouping. There's the box method. Box method kind of goes with master product, but these are methods, like tried and true methods for factoring something that has a leading coefficient other than 1 is what we call it. So when we're multiplying that x squared by a number that's not 1, that are really going to help you with your factoring. So you could research these on your own. You can continue with the guessing and checking. You're going to find a lot of the assignments that we do now in class are going to be a little bit shorter because it's going to be more work to do this. So as always, if you need help, please make sure you ask.